On this episode of Nameless Light, I'm joined by Mr. Hideki Makihara to talk about Japan. Mr. Makihara is a Japanese politician, perhaps best known for serving as Japan's former Minister of Justice, and he brings a wealth of experience from his many years in government. Before we dive into the interview, just a quick note that we're learning this podcasting thing in real time. You might notice the microphones blocking our faces throughout the entire interview, which is kind of annoying. But if you compare this one to the last one that we did, you're going to see huge improvements in terms of video quality. And if you compare the next one to this one, you're also going to see huge improvements in video quality. And I know that because we've already done the next episode. So just stick with us, bear with us as we learn and adapt in real time. We really appreciate it. And with that, see you on the other side. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming on the show. How are you liking Canada so far?
Just before coming to Toronto last night, I visited Vancouver.
Okay, yeah.
And before that, I visited Washington, D.C. I feel the atmosphere, Canada is very different from the U.S.
Yeah.
In particular now.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that today. And let's start with tariffs. So as you know better than me, trade policies have been shifting drastically recently.
Right.
Especially with the U.S. taking a protectionist America First stance under Trump. So in this evolving landscape, how is Japan adapting its economic policies to maintain stability and growth?
Actually, different from Canada, our products are not yet subject to tariff measures. Of course, some steels, aluminiums, but not so big. So Japanese government and Japanese people are still believe we would not be subject to the tariff measures because at least Trump 1.0 or the first administration, Mr. Abe, created a very nice relation with him. So whenever Trump says something, bad, I think after the discussion with Prime Minister Abe, all such kinds of a measure, I think was not actually started against Japan. So we still believe so. So we are not so prepared now.
But you remain optimistic.
Yes, exactly.
Good. And I think for us to really understand what's happening in Japan today, we have to talk about Abenomics, as you mentioned, which was a defining economic strategy for Japan over the past decade, and it left a lasting impact. And of course, some aspects have been praised, while others remain debated. In your opinion, what were the biggest successes, and where did it fall short?
Biggest success we believe is, Abenomics end the so-called deflation. So for 30 years after bubble era, collapsed in 1990, our economy suffered deflation. So the prices just go down, and wage also go down, stock market go down. So now, I think after Abenomics started, the stock market dramatically, right up, and the wage and the employment and the price is, finally is now the going up. Of course, people are so accustomed to like deflation situation. So, in a sense, in particular, the older people who live with the pension, they're so, feel nice with the deflation situation because the price is cheap. But now price is going up. They are now complaining. That's a problem.
Okay. Interesting. Well, we're going to talk about that later. But I want to ask a follow-up question. So how are these Abenomic policies evolving under the Ishiba administration?
I think, even after Abe, Suga, Kishida, and Ishiba, I think take over the Abenomics politics. in essence. The problem is, yes, so as I told you, the deflation almost ends. So the central bank of Japan, I think they started to increase the interest, right? For the first time, I think in 20 years. So now we have to closely watch yeah, deflation was the problem, we understand, but the inflation, hits the people's life.
Yeah.
Yes. So now we closely watch the situation.
Great. And you mentioned inflation a few times, and I think Japan is such an interesting case study for inflation because, as you said, the country has struggled with deflation for many years, but recently inflation has started to pick up, which could be a great sign for economic activity. But at the end of the day, inflation is inflation and prices going up. So before I ask about the policies that are being implemented to deal with inflation, I just want to know how Japan feels about having inflation again.
I think if you mention to inflation, there are bad inflation, good inflation. Inflation. Bad inflation is related to like the price of oil and the natural gas. These how to say it depend on the international market. So if those prices go up, I think the electricity is a big problem because the people now people use electronic products, of course, the smartphone or everything. So if the price of electricity go up, that hits the people's living very much, and if you pay more for the electronics, that money goes to like Saudi Arabia or Qatar because our electricity generation is now almost 70% of total electricity comes from fire plant, including mainly natural gas and coal and oil, and also we use the gas for automobile. So this money in the end go to Saudi Arabia. So that is not good for our economics. And if we mention the good inflation, so let's say the company's product now they can raise their price up. So that means that link to the increase of the sales. So now we try to push the companies such kind of the increase of sales should be converted to the increase of wage. So that will link to people's living, much better. That is our effort now.
Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong. You're saying like you don't have a binary stance where it's like it's good or bad. It's so like in some sectors you enjoy having inflation, and in some sectors it's not. It's something that you're trying to combat.
Yes, exactly.
I see. And well, you mentioned also wage growth. I have a question about that as well. We know that so one of the biggest challenges for any economy is ensuring that wage growth translates into real economic benefits.
Right.
As you said, Japan has recently seen some of the highest wage increases in decades, which is a big shift. How does the government plan to make sure that these higher wages actually lead to a stronger domestic consumption and long-term economic growth?
I don't think the government has a big plan or long-term plan. Or as you may know, in the ongoing diet session, to increase tedori. Tedori is a real income. Just if income grows, increase, and that the price increase, and that the gap is still the price increase is more than a wage increase, that is not so good. So what we try to do is the real income should increase. So for example, 90 5% of total companies are small and medium companies. And usually the big companies and the small medium companies is, how to say, the small medium companies client is big companies. So those companies depend on big companies. And usually the big companies give pressure to their price less and less. So now the government closely watches this kind of movement, and if the big companies give unreasonable pressure on the prices, we give warning for them. So in that sense, now we are checking all the prices in the course of total market chain.
And staying on the economic questions, so Japanese have a reputation for a strong savings culture, but there's been a push to encourage more investment, especially in asset management.
Right.
What initiatives are in place to shift this mindset and position Japan as a more attractive destination for investors?
Right. Okay. One example, the stock market was we call Nikkei average. It was almost 8,000. That is 80 Canadian dollar, I think. At the age of, let's say, 2012. And at that time, Mr. Abe took the administration. Now the average Nikkei is almost 40,000. So that means 5 times, just 5 times high, just in 10, almost 13 years. So if people, invested that time, people's asset fortune is almost 5 times.
Yeah.
But at that time, Japanese people, as you told me, loves the saving than investment.
Yeah.
So we cannot receive the fruit of the economic growth. So I think that the government tried to push more investment than the saving in order for them to receive the fruit of economic growth.
I see. I'm going to go back to global politics, and forgive me if this is like a big picture question, but so Japan's biggest trade partner is China, and its biggest ally is the US. And so Japan should always walk this fine line. And with the recent tensions between China and the U.S., how is Japan adapting, and how is Japan evaluating the current situation?
I think the military or the security issue is different from economy issues. So even if U.S. and China has some tension, economically, we are in a neutral position. Of course, U.S. started some sanctions against, based on the security issues, such as Huawei or some other companies. Yes, because we are ally, important ally. So we usually follow the U.S. such kind of sanction. But otherwise, economy is economy. So, and in foreign affairs, U.S. and Japan and the China's relation lasts so long in the history. So we have original history or cultural, or intersection. So I think Japan should be independent in the sense of foreign affairs. So and maybe in ideal situation, we always like a bridge between the bridge of peace or friendship between China and the US.
I see. Japan has made some huge investments in AI and semiconductors. How do these investments fit into Japan's broader strategy, and what impact do you anticipate in the next decade?
After World War II, Japanese economy developed very fast and dramatically. And that was based on heavy industries, including steel or shipbuilding, and at the final moment, semiconductors or supercomputers. But after, let's say, 1990, the competition power in these areas just have been decreasing. So now the Korea or Taiwan or China, I don't say dominate, but they are sometimes much better than Japanese, industries in these areas. And automobile, like Toyota, Nissan, Honda, the automobile sector has been center of our economy. So we're so dependent on automobile sectors in terms of like employment and also the profit and the tax income as well. So now we have like a Tesla or a BYD, many Chinese automobile companies. We see the danger if we continue to be just dependent on the automobile sector only. So we need another sector which Japanese future rely on. So the best candidate we believe, or at least the government and Ishiba administration believe, is semiconductor and AI. So it's kind of a bet.
I see.
Yeah. So, but we subsidize a lot to these edging industries.
So, does the investment in AI have to do with a population decline? So maybe like you want to like develop robots to take over some jobs and help with the population decline?
Yeah, and that's true. I served as State Minister for Labor, and I attended the G20 ministerial meetings instead of minister at that time. And I see the, usually the decrease of population or aging society means the demerit for the economy. Yeah, it's true. But in the discussion we had at that time, I see the different feeling from other countries, because usually in almost countries, employment rate is like crucial to the political popularity. And so, but Japan is totally different, situation, because aging and decrease of population and fewer children. Now, it not employment rate is issue, but scarce of human resources. So the people cannot hire the people, employ the people. So now, many foreign labor force, helped Japanese economy or Japanese market a lot. But in that sense, we have no hesitation to employ the cutting-edge technologies or like including AI, robotics. So by that way, we can enhance our efficiency of production.
I see. And speaking of population decline, so I mean, Tokyo and other major cities remain economic powerhouses, but many rural and regional areas are struggling with population decline and stagnation. So, what specific policies are being implemented to revitalize these regions, and how do they fit into Japan's broader economic strategy?
Yes, that's the most difficult part actually,
Mhm.
because the young people, or you know, they in the younger days of the people, they want like chances, opportunities, and that they love the city lives, nightclubs, or anyway. So, or in a rural area, even if there are many children, when they grow up, they tend to go to Tokyo,
Yeah.
Osaka, those metropolitan area. So only the old parents remain in the region. So the issue is how can the government push those young people go back to their hometown, or even if the rural area is not their furusato, it's original town. Maybe if let's say young people grow up in Tokyo, how to attract those people going to rural area. So that's the issue. So now, for example, we created the system of 地域おこしたい. That means, how to say, cheering up the rural area.
Yeah.
In many ways.
Mhm.
So we subsidize such kind of transfer of the residence, or for if younger people want to start the agriculture, we assure the 3 years of living cost. So we take such kind of many variety of measures.
Yeah.
To push young people to live in rural area.
And so we know that the government recently rolled out a $250 billion stimulus package. And, there's always the challenge of balancing short-term economic support with long-term fiscal responsibility. And given Japan's already significant debt levels, how does the government plan to strike that balance?
There are the huge discussions how to what is a balance itself. I mean, some people in particular are supported by the big voices in the internet, SNS. They say the government will never go bankrupt. How big, however big, whatever big, debt the government has. I strongly believe that kind of argument is not true. But, those voices are too big to be ignored. So what we are saying is, we don't go into such kind of argument. We just say, economic growth is important at first. So let's don't think about the debt, but let's think about economic growth, how to make economic growth. So by using the government money, it's okay. Even the money goes to the purpose of this money goes to the economic growth. It's okay. So we try to avoid the serious argument, but it may be dangerous. I think.
I see. And well, to wrap up on this discussion, so looking ahead, Japan faces both opportunities and challenges, of course, on the global stage. What do you see as the key priorities for Japan's economic policy in the coming years?
First, it's the technologies. So we bet that, some industries, the growth, And if we could, win the bet, I think the economic growth will be, dramatically higher. So, but if we lose the bet, it will be the problem. So anyway, we try our best. And also, the investment from foreign countries is the key, one of the keys. Because, in the long history, Japan is like a, how to say, very different, like a Canada and the US, where always the market is open, immigration is relatively open, and investment from the foreign countries is open. Japan is not like such countries. Now, we have no other choice but to accept as many investment or immigration as possible. And immigration is a little bit different, but for high-ranked business person or academic person and nice sport players, we are very active to accept these people.
I see. Well, thank you so much. For the last question, I always ask for life advice for young people. But so today, since I've always admired Japanese cinema, I was wondering if you could recommend some Japanese movies that would teach me a thing or two about life.
Yeah. Animation is amazing, as you may know. So, Hayao Miyazaki's movie. I love Tonari no Totoro most. And also like Kimi no Na wa. It's a great movie, I believe. And if you want to cry, I recommend the 今会いに行きます. I don't know the English name, but the movie is regarding the family and they lost mother. But the story is just amazing, beyond the imagination. And I cried with that movie, I think, most in my life.
Wow. Okay, well, let's end it with that. Thank you so much again for showing up. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.
My pleasure.